Good morning, everyone. I'm Buzz Sawyer with the Grizzly Sports Network, and I'm here with Coach Doug Pogue. If you live in Fort Smith or anywhere in the River Valley, you know this guy. He's a retired football coach, but also he is an ambassador for the Fort Smith Public Schools to FCA, and I think that you're probably familiar with FCA, but we're going to get a little more in depth with that now. It's the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. It's a huge organization, but Coach Pogue, like I said, is an ambassador for that, and October's a big month for the FCA.
Coach. We have the Field of Faith, and it started last Wednesdays. It's every Wednesday of this month. October or tomorrow, there's I think Van Buren and Alma, and some other schools are having it tomorrow, and then Fort Smith is having their Field of Faith this next Wednesday, the 16th.
Right. And when you say Field of Faith, they're actually doing it on
the football
fields at these different high schools.
Correct. And it's they've had at times some schools have had Court of Faith where they had the basketball, facilities and so forth. But this was brought. I guess they started this in a brainstorm of a guy from Oklahoma State. He was the FCA guy that was at Oklahoma State, and so they finally got it together in Texas and Kansas and in Oklahoma. Their first one they had was in 2004.
So when we talk about the FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, what is the actual mission of the FCA?
Well, FCA, people don't understand, FCA is a mission field. Is an outreach program to reach young people or athletes, to share the gospel and hopefully to change lives. And and it's internationally too. I was reading a newsletter from FCA and they have a deal where they're going to go to Africa and and Algeria and just different areas in the world to reach young athletes and young people to hopefully to be able to share the gospel with them and hopefully to change lives.
Well, Coach, you've been around. You're now a
A few
retired
years.
Southside football coach,
Right.
coached at Chaffin. You touched a lot of lives one way or another, and your name can't be mentioned without somebody having a story about you. And I've talked to you, known you my whole life and talked about things that you've done in your life. But the fact that you've been a coach and you've been such a mentor to so many of these kids, being an ambassador to Fort Smith Public Schools, you've really been that for your whole career.
Well, at the schools I've been to, I started at Darby, but we didn't have FCA. I was involved in FCA when I was in high school. Coach Tansel, first introduced it was at Northside my sophomore year, and then moved and went to Southside my junior and senior year. And then Coach Rowland was a big instrumental. He was my senior year was his first year at Southside, and so I was involved in it then. Went to FCA camp. One of the FCA camps they had at the University of Arkansas. Bill Burnett, who was he was later become the state leader of FCA, and plus he was an All-American at Arkansas, and he was one of my camp counselors, and so being involved in it, it's just something that started when I was in high school, and then when I got when I got to Chaffin, a guy named Jan Campbell came to me. He was working at Midwest. He's the one that got me involved in FCA and started a huddle at Chaffin, and I've been with a part of it ever since. It was in 1992, so I've been a part of it ever since. And when they approached me after I knew that I was going to retire, they asked me would I be interested in doing this, and I said, yeah. And then I said, I didn't know exactly what it all entailed, and so, but it's kind of taking over a little bit bigger role than I guess I really expected. But it keeps me grounded, and it keeps me around young people, and I just always feel like that it was God's calling, because God always He has always had a hand on me in some shape or way, form. I mean, whether He just doesn't. he's been good to me. I've been blessed. I can't deny that.
And Coach, you have blessed a lot of people.
Well, thank you.
So you doing what you do with the FCA, being a coach, you know, you have a lot of influence on young people. And I go back to when I was playing football and the coaches that I had and how much they meant in my life and how they could have sent me down a wrong road. And it's easy to do.
Right.
Being a coach, there's a lot of responsibility with it. And the fact that you are so grounded and you've been blessed and you've passed that blessing on to a lot of these kids. And there's so much to be said for that. And we're thankful to have you. And when we talk about FCA and you go back to Bill Burnett, who was a great running back for the Razorbacks, and I got to meet him, probably about 20 years ago.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He was made a big impact on my life just meeting him and knowing that that's the kind of person he is. He's not just a great running back, but he's a Christian and has helped a lot of people in their journey to be Christians.
You know, what's so crazy about, with Bill being was my huddle leader when I was it was the second year I went up there for the FCA camp. And but what was crazy is he moved here to Fort Smith. I guess his kids were in junior high. I coached his daughter Joy, and she ran track for me at Chaffin, and she was around pretty close to the same age my daughter is, and so that kind of carried on with the relationship, and then through FCA and after he moved back to Northwest Arkansas, and this kind of keeping up and running into him at FCA game days and it's certain FCA events. It's always been just fun, just kind of reminiscing with him and so forth, and it's FCA has brought me in a lot of contact with a lot of coaches and stuff, and it's I went to my first FCA couples retreat this year, and probably should have done it 35 years ago.
You and I were talking about that the other day.
It's like I say, there's a lot to it, and and mainly is to get coaches, and where coaches become more than just to being a coach, but being mentors, and and having that relationship with the kid, and knowing that they're in their lives they have Christian values, mm-hmm. and that to hopefully they can steer young people in their athletes in a direction that this world needs change and direction as it is, and to hopefully be an influence in their lives in that regards. Most coaches are influenced in one way or the other.
Exactly.
And first, I've always said that students or athletes, they can read through you pretty good. They know where your heart is.
Right.
And so therefore, it's important. And that doesn't mean that everything's going to be perfect, but it's got to know that you care about them and you love them, and that and hopefully that God is the number one priority in your life, and hopefully you can share that, and hopefully these student athletes can see that.
Well, Coach, the event that's coming up at Northside is on October the 16th. Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, Field of Faith, like I said earlier, it was a kind of a brainstorm of a guy named Jeff Martin, who's from who was the FCA guy at Oklahoma State. He's the one that kind of got it started, and it was in 2004. And Tyson Simon, who is our area director, he kind of let me know how Field of Faith came about. And it was King Josiah, and King Josiah is an Old Testament king, and you can find it in Chronicles 34. And Josiah was a teenager, or he was 8 years old when he became king. Now, can you imagine being 8 years old and becoming king? Well, anyway, he was he was a teenager, and Judah and Jerusalem they were in. Had a lot of idols and worship, these Asher poles and golden calves and so forth. And he felt as a teenager he was a godly person. He wanted to change, and so he encouraged all the people to start reading the Bible, to put away the idols, to worship the one God. And he felt like if a teenager can do this, we can have revival in our schools.
Well, Coach, so that story will let you know that FCA, the origin of FCA goes way
back.
And people don't know that.
No, I know, and I like I say, until last week I had no clue, and he was kind of letting me. So I did my research on it a little bit, and I go, wow, and it wasn't. It's just a story about a young man or a teen, but there's a progression, and there was some change that later on, he ruled Jerusalem and Judah for 31 years. So, but it was a process. But that started when he was a teenager, right. And to have that kind of influence as a teenager, where he can make the Jerusalem and change their culture, which is a lot, which I think FCA wants to do is change the cultures of the schools to make them, to bring godly principles to it, and what more ways, or better way than get your student athletes, because your student athletes, most people know who they are.
Yes.
And they can have such an influence in your schools that I think a lot of it correlates to winning and the way things are done at your school. I know that I've always felt like that's the way it was at Chapman. And we didn't win everything, but it seemed like we were always pretty successful in some, a lot of things we did. So it's that's just my thoughts and my opinion about it. So
this next Wednesday, the
right.
16th. It will take place at Northside.
At Northside.
And what time will that be?
It starts at. They're going to have food at 6:30. So
okay.
If you get there early, you get a hot dog and so forth, and then it starts at 7 o'clock. They're giving away. I think they're going to come in and let me. I had a partner that was supposed to be here with me, but she her name is Courtney, and her was in an accident, so she couldn't be here. But she's the one that heading it up. But she's kind of come up with the idea that we're going to give away a $500 gift card. Mm-hmm. They're going to have to be able to scan a QR code at the beginning as they go in, as they come in. And then they're giving away 3 or 4 $100 gift cards. And then we have a speaker whose name is Willie Spears. He's from Florida. You can Google him. He is dynamic. He's, I'd say he's around 50-ish, but he speaks that young language. He's very good, very dynamic, and I think that these young people they will get a lot out of just being around him, because, like I say, he's good.
Well, Coach, who's it open to?
To anybody.
It's wide open.
Wide open. Even though it says Fellowship of Christian Athletes, it's not just athletes.
I think a lot of people think that.
I think that, but it's not. It's open to, even though it's kind of geared and towards your sports teams, but anybody can come. And we've tried to partner up with some of the churches. There'll be some youth pastors there to help us right. At the end, they have what they call breakout sessions, and to do some counseling, and particularly if someone, feel the call of changing their life, and feel the call of accepting Jesus Christ in their life. That's you need someone there to help them walk them through the process, and because it is a change. That doesn't mean that you're going to be completely different. I mean, you have to. Right. Change certain things that you do in your life, but hopefully you do them less, because we live in a world of sin, and that's
exactly right.
it's all out here in front of us, and it's just tough, especially when you talk about social media, and that's what we're doing here, trying to get it on social media, and so.
Well, we want to get the word out as much as we can.
Exactly.
To promote what's going to happen at Northside, but it's at fields all over.
Yes, here in the
during
River
the month of
Valley.
October.
Yeah, it's all over the state and
Right.
all over the country. You know, everybody's having these. I don't know. I just, like I say, I'm just kind of really know what there's going on in the river. I know there's either there's 7 here in River Valley
Right.
area, and there's also 7 in Oklahoma, because we cover. Gosh, I can't exactly tell you how many schools here. We go all the way to Russellville, all the way south to Walter, and all the way north. You know,
Yeah.
like going to Mountainburg, and then over in Oklahoma. Gosh, there's. Gosh, I don't know how many schools in Oklahoma, but they cover the broad area.
Right.
And so there's a lot of student athletes that we try to minister to, I guess.
Well, the Grizzly Sports Network will be live streaming this.
And I thank you for this. What you've done is, and been, kind of gotten a little bit into the Grizzly Network and the Maverick Network. It's awesome to be able to be a part of that and to get the word out to certain.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you. Thank you for what you
We
do,
appreciate both.
and we're looking forward to being there Wednesday night.
October 16th.
Okay.
And
Everybody's invited.
everybody's invited. And like I say, 6:30 they have food until it runs out, and then
Right.
it's and then after that they'll have some games. I know there's going to be a scavenger hunt, and then like I say, the gift cards,
Right.
and there'll be live music. So
gonna be fun.
it'll last for about probably from 6:30 to about 8:15, I guess.
Okay.
And so it'll be a fun time. It'll be a good time.
Well, we're looking forward to it, and we thank you for doing
Well,
what you do.
I
And I know
appreciate it, bud.
you've had those connections with those kids
Yeah.
for so long, and being a Christian and living a Christian life, it's such a role model. You have been such a role model, and being a part of the fellowship of Christian athletes, and like you said earlier, these athletes in these schools set such an example for everybody that
Yes.
that watches them.
Right.
Not just the ones in the school, but the young kids too.
We see so much out there on on social media and stuff, and it's just the stuff, the things that they're subjected to.
Right.
Hopefully that being a part of a Christian group, or whether it be a church group or a Bible study group, and they can like I say, can change lives, and that's what particularly hopefully start small and and evangelize a little bit, and hopefully things will get we can share the gospel, and hopefully the lives are changed.
Coach, thanks for spending your
Thanks,
time with
bud.
us this
Appreciate
morning. Here again, it's going to be Wednesday night, 6:30 at Mayo Thompson. That's Northside's football stadium. Please come. It doesn't cost anything, and your life will be changed by this. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir.